What's up guys, welcome to today's video and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to continue working on a 2003 350Z, and the plan is to get this car on the ground, or at least very close on being on the ground. We got all of our suspension components in, and we finally got our coilovers. I know that they haven't been here in a little while, but in the previous videos you saw all the arms and all the bushings that we have done already, and it's all ready to go. So before we get into that car, I just want to give you guys a heads up. For a 500 subscriber giveaway, we're going to be giving away a t-shirt, a hat, some stickers, and also this Mishimoto thermostatic plate. So if you guys need one, so subscribe and you're going to be automatically entered to win this. And it will also come with all the fittings. As you know, it comes with a dash 10 anodized black fittings, and then also it depends what kind of oil filter you run in. They come with both thread pitches. So, and also what's cool about this, it has a 1/8 inch MPT port on it. So if you guys are looking to run a temp gauge or a pressure gauge for your oil system, you can do so. So subscribe and don't miss out, guys. All right, so let's get into today's video. Let's see these coilovers and let's get to work. All right guys, this is the coilovers that we went with. We end up purchasing a BC Racing coilovers, and I believe these are the DS style, which means they don't have a rubber pad in here or a rubber bushing of some sort, so because we don't want any flex, or try to be as sturdy as possible. So this product is very nice. I have never ran a BC Racing coilover yet, so I'm pretty excited to try it out. Most of the coilovers I had was either Stance or TN. So this is all of our arms. As you saw before, we have Z1 Street or the track edition arms with solid bushings, and here's all the rest of the OEM parts that we have. And in the previous videos we end up replacing all of these points with energy suspension polyurethane bushings. And the only problem we had last time, if you remember, on this bushing right here, we weren't able to squeeze this down all the way, and we tried about everything, press a vise, all thread with washers on it to get them pressed in, so there's no space in here. But I'll show you exactly what happened and what we end up doing to fix that problem. All right guys, in the previous video we were struggling to squeeze these two bushings together. This was the only bushing that came like this for the front lower control arm where your strut sits. So these little ridges, we're having a very hard time pressing them in to each other all the way where there was no space on both sides of the arms. So what we end up doing today was right here, the very first two, we end up just slightly sanding them down, and that popped right in. So if you guys are struggling, or if you end up picking this up, I don't know, comment down below if you guys had good luck with it, but we did not. So we end up sending this down to press that bushing all the way in, and that did work with no problems, and it's still very tight. Anyway, let's I'm gonna start on the back left. We already got our subframe in and a differential in, and I'll show you that in a second, but we're gonna start on our back left and kind of just start working our way across to the front side. Let's do it. All right guys, here is our subframe. It is all installed. As you saw last time, we ended up putting the solid bushings in on all 4 points, and it came with a few spacers. So on the front right here, let me see if I can get you a better shot. Right down in there you kind of can see a spacer that sits in there. So you want to use a thicker spacer down there, because if you don't, you're basically not going to be able to get your subframe all the way up, because the stud that sits right in there, it runs out of threads. And then don't forget to put this in, because that's also helps to support all this together. And on the back we end up using no spacers, and the bottom, don't forget to install this, because this acts as like a washer. But I guess if you don't want it, you can get rid of it and just get a thick washer if you don't want to run it. But figure why not, because that just gives you another support to make it stiffer, because it goes all the way across, so it stiffens up, you know, maybe not much, but it does help. Anyway, the differential is in. As we talked about last time, we did install our solid bushing right up in there, and we have the 2 solid bushings on the front side. Anyway, we're gonna start off with installing our A-arms that go right down in there, and then kind of just work our way out, and then getting our shock mounted, and then hopefully we can at some point put a wheel on. Before we get started in there and start reinstalling our suspension, I wanted to preset our new rods to approximately factory length, so we're at least somewhat close to alignment once we put the car on the ground. So for that, I started setting this one up, but I just want to share it real quick. So I kind of just put 2 long rods in on both sides, and I have a new control. So this arm is going to replace our original bucket. This is where the spring sits, but since we're going with a true coilover style, then we're no longer going to be utilizing this bucket, and we can just install a regular control arm. So for that, we're just gonna try to start from the, so you want to have both of your ends all the way in and just kind of start on threading this. I can't do the one arm, kind of need both arms, but you get the point. You want to thread this and match both of your holes to these rods, so at least it's kind of close. So let me do that and I'll show you real quick. So here it is. I kind of just gonna start unthreading it. So I started earlier, but I'm gonna tighten and snug this down so it doesn't turn whenever we go to put it on. And I'm just gonna unthread it nice and even, because you don't want to unthread one side and then have, you know, less material or less threads on one side than the other. Then you potentially end up damaging the control arm. So here it is. We unthreaded it a little bit, and as long as we can get one end or both ends in, I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, we're not doing a perfect alignment or anything, but we're just kind of setting it to the as close as possible to the factory spec. So there you go, and we're just going to snug these down. I'm just going to snug them by hand. It's not going anywhere. And then once it's installed on the car, we'll actually take a wrench and tighten it down a little bit more. But once we do the alignment, we'll get it all set up correctly. So here it is, pretty easy and simple. And then you just want to make sure these are your joints right here stay center and not cocked. So there's one of them. So this is one of them we're going to do. And the next one is this torsion arm, I believe. And for this guy, I'm just going to set it down on the table, and I'm just going to kind of put it right on top of it. And as long as these holes do line up, this is a little too big. I think this one will work. There you go. It's a little too long. We're gonna loosen this up and bring this in just a hair. There you go. And I'm just gonna snug it down by hand. All right. Alright, so both of these arms are basically preset or somewhat close to where we need them, and that's how we're going to use them for now. Alright, we're going to start putting this A-arm in. This is basically where everything hangs from. We basically end up just cleaning up the OEM hardware with a wire wheel, just to give it a little, you know, knock off the little rust that it had on it. It's always nice to have, you know, clean, or best case scenario, brand new hardware. There's that one. All right, the next one up is going to be this torsion arm, and goes right over here. So this is the sideways arm, and this one actually comes with 2 spacers that'll go in here, and I gotta grab them real quick. It comes with these 2 rings like that, and one of them is going to go on the inside, and then your arm goes there. And then your other one, I'm just going to put this one on a bolt and then thread it in. And these arms from Z1, so the ball that's inside this joint is actually comes pre-lubed. So And it's recommended to be actually lubed with like, I don't know, energy suspension lube or anything synthetic like that every 5,000 miles. So if you guys just want to keep that in mind, if you guys are doing that, they'll just help it, you know, make it last longer. There she goes. And just watch out for this rubber boot. Don't try to pinch it in there. Try to be as neat as possible. Keep everything in one piece before we put it together. Because this rubber actually gets jammed up in there. So you can just pull on it, or I might have to get a screwdriver or something and get it in, but I'll do that here in a second. So this arm is done. Now next one, I think we're gonna do our long one, which is the camber arm. We're gonna put that one on, and then we'll do our short one, and then we'll mount our hub. We're actually gonna temp install these bolts because they come with a little washer that is set up for your OEM alignment. So basically you rotate it and it has an area right over here. I'll show you in a second. And that's how you would set your alignment, because those buckets that we saw earlier where the spring went is not adjustable. But since we have a full adjustable arm, we no longer need that. And you can purchase those two plates and the new bolt. They'll go in there, or you can make it and then just purchase new bolts. So we haven't purchased it or made it just yet, but for now I'm gonna temp install this one, and later down the road we're gonna change. But that's what it looks like in here. You see the two little areas where it would sit in, it would lock in there, and then if you rotate, it would push or pull your arm away, you know, in or out, however your alignment needs to be done. But since we don't need that, we're gonna end up putting two plates in there, so it kind of just holds in that area instead of a washer. So it'll be kind of like a square washer, and then we can just control our camber with our arm. And these guys also come with the two spacers on each side, so it's nice if you damage one, you can replace it. You don't have to get a whole new arm. And we're just gonna slide that one in for now, and put that other washer on the other side. And there you go. I'm not gonna tighten anything just yet. I'm gonna get all this loosely installed, and then we'll snug all this down. So let's move on to our next arm, which is this one. All right, guys, this one we also preset this one earlier. I know I wasn't on camera, but it was the same deal. I kind of just put two rods on each hand and set the OEM height. And this one's also has this type of washer, or this type of bowl that goes in here. So we're gonna end up replacing that later. That's in. So now we are ready to install our hub assembly. And these guys actually didn't come, the bolt joint where it sits in the race right over here, it didn't actually come with the new arm, so we had to get these off our OEM setup. I believe I might actually put the wrong stuff in this. Yes, I have. So there's two different, I'll show you here in a second. So basically the whole suspension has two different size bolts. Well, at least the control arms do, not everything. And there's one that's a little bit longer than the other. And the shorter ones actually go on the bottom right over here where these two control arms connect. So this one and this one, they take the shorter bolt. The rest of them basically take the longer stuff. Just in case you guys don't know, like I didn't know just now, you want to put the longer bolts everywhere else and then the shorter bolts at the very bottom. All right, there you go, guys. Everything is installed. Everything's right now, it's all hand tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this coilover in there, and then we're going to put that bolt in, and then we'll just mock up our rotor and see what that all looks like. So the coilover, as it says in the instruction from BC, they come with about 2 to 3 millimeter of spring preload, and well, I think we're just going to go with that for now. I'm not going to change it just yet. And the right height, obviously we don't know where the car is going to sit. So for now, we're just kind of going to measure them once both of them are in, and we're just going to kind of put at whatever height until we get our motor or transmission in and the car is going to be fully loaded. But for now, this is going to be temp installed just so we can roll this thing around for time being. All right, there it is, guys. Everything is kind of hand tight right now, but it looks very nice and crispy. I like it. So we're gonna go ahead and put our rotor on, just because. All right, boys, that looks pretty nice in here. Everything is nice and fresh. Woo! It's gonna look really good once everything's back together. Okay, so we got one side down, so that's a rear left side, and I wanted to kind of do the forward left, but Jake is actually currently working on the engine bay. Since he's working on that, I'm gonna go ahead and do the right side rear. All right, boys, the rear is all in now. So basically it came out all looking good. Here it is. We're gonna go through it one more time. I'm gonna get some light down here so we can all see it. And I kind of went off camera and tightened up all the points except these rear ones that we talked about right over here where we have a slotted area. We're gonna have to get a square washer so it sits in both of these and doesn't move. Basically, there's one there. Oops. And there's one right over here. So we need to get 4 or make 4 of them. But other than that, it came out looking pretty crispy. Everything looks nice and fresh. We got our rotors, so the calipers are still not here. Coilovers are in. We're right over there. We don't have our height set just yet, but we will later once the car is fully loaded, or at least when we start rolling it around. And here's that other side. So everything lined up. And you saw me setting the length for this side on the bench. So that should be basically as close as we can from the old OEM setup. All right, but right now we can't do the front yet. Jake is still working on the engine bay. I was trying to get this put in, but we're gonna have to wait for a different day. But check this out. So Jake, you wanna talk about what you got going on over here?
Yeah, I'm just continuing on the engine bay. You guys saw, obviously, the secondary firewall we removed. Started looking at the front. You know, we're just cleaning these areas up. This is the upper coilover mount, and it had like a flange that stuck up. Cut that off, welded it in, nice taper. And my plan is to go ahead and hit these lines, weld those up as well. And around this cross member up top here. Just filling all these welds. If you look at the other side, some of these factory welds they look pretty pretty boogered up. It looks like they forgot some gas on some of the welds, some shielding gas. So I just think it looks a lot better if we fill that up, taper it out. I already welded this side up. There's a lot of junk in between these plates, a lot of the seam sealers. So just clean it up. Sometimes you get welding through and just blows out, pulling all that crap from between the two pieces. So just continuing on. I think it's gonna look nice with these all smooth, you know, no seams. I think it's gonna be a good look. Just continue it on the back as well, but this is priority right now because we want to get the suspension up here. So I don't want to be cutting and grinding with the brand new coilovers sticking out the top. As well, you know, you guys saw the side plates, box those off. I use 16 gauge steel. It's pretty close to the original thickness. I still got to hit these corners, but I'm going to go ahead and close up this seam as well and this one on the bottom. Just going to give it a real nice clean look and keep crap out of there from building up. So this one's complete all the way and just moving forward. So to fill these holes up, it's kind of tedious, especially on the real thin stuff. This isn't too bad. Up here, it's a little thinner, especially on the backfire. I got one of these roto broach. It's just, it's like a hole saw. It's more precision. And what I've been doing is throwing it in a drill press, taking that 16 gauge steel and just run it down. That center post is a spring. As you can see, it goes up in, and I cut little circles, and it's got a flange, and I just take a piece of speed tape. It's like aluminum tape, and stick it on the backside, so it speeds up welding the holes. Then you can just burn it, a nice little loop, instead of sitting there trying to tack and worry about blowing it out. So if you're plugging the engine bay, I think that's the way to go. It speeds up those holes. It don't seem like much, but that real thin gauge steel, it's kind of a pain. Takes a little while. So yeah, that's where we're at, just moving forward. Quick update on the transmission as well. I don't know if you guys remember, we got a case, it's got a crack in the drain plug. Take you over here, see what we got. Someone put the drain plug in this and they went to town and they cracked the case. So I just got a carbide burr, nice and clean. It's cast aluminum. It really wasn't that dirty, but I notched that out and with the TIG, just went through with the cleaning and just no filler out at first. And I heated this up actually on my wood burner just to keep everything a little more even, easier to weld with it kind of preheated a little bit. And I just ran the TIG torch through and kind of pulled out a lot of the impurities and the crap that comes out, and then grind it back out with the carbide burr. And I filled it up. I built it up a little bit high, and I'm hoping I can get a tap for the drain plug and pick up these top threads and just work it in there nice and easy. Worst case scenario, if I have to, I'm just gonna go ahead and grind the rest of those threads out and just build it back up and re-drill it and then re-tap it. So I'll give that a shot. I mean, we have this transmission now, so it's worth a shot. What's the worst that's gonna happen? It's gonna crack again. It was already cracked, so. All right, there you have it, boys. Next time we'll do actually a separate video on the transmission, and I'll put a couple pictures in there how Jake fixed it. But for now, I know we didn't get to the front part because Jake's still working on that stuff, so it'll probably be in the next video. But this is it for today, boys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.